evening, everyone. It's 6 p.m., August 16, 2021. It's time to start the Franklin City Council meeting. Ms. Rose, roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Mr. Austin?
Here.
Mr. Blankenship?
Here.
Mr. Buchan?
Here.
Ms. Jones? Here. Ms. McGinnis? Mr. Ryan?
Here.
Mr. Taylor?
Here.
Sir, you have a quorum.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Brian Reese, will you please send the prayer and pledge?
We invite you to join. Our Father, we come to you this evening thankful and grateful for another day of life. We do pray this evening that you would have your hand of blessing upon this assembly. Be with all the matters of business at hand, whether it's old business or new business, or the matter of swearing in of new officers. We pray that you give them a good and safe career here in Franklin. They get ready to move our way to serve and protect us and our families. We do pray you be with those that sit on the council, give them wisdom, give them thoughtfulness, the decisions that they make. And we pray that you would just help guide Franklin into its future, even the decisions that are made today. And we just pray your hand of blessing upon this meeting tonight. It's in your name we pray. Amen. Stand together for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, is there any announcements, presentations, or public comments that's not under the hearing none? We do have the swearing in of two police officers, Justin Daniels and Mr. Kirby Conklin Jr. So we'll want to do that at this time. Raise your right hand. I, Dustin Manholz.
I, Justin Manholz,
A member of the Franklin, Indiana Police
a
Department.
member of the Franklin, Indiana Police
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America.
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
The Constitution of the State of Indiana.
the Constitution of the State of Indiana,
And that I will faithfully discharge all of my official duties.
and that I will faithfully discharge all of my official duties.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
That's silly.
And then Kirby, you're gonna want both of them when you're done with him. Up there.
Raise your right hand. I, Kirby E. Cochran Jr., a member of the Franklin, Indiana Police Department, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America, the Constitution of the State of Indiana, and that I will faithfully discharge all of my official duties. Congratulations. anyone wants to listen, you're welcome to leave.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I was like, these two had a lot.
Yeah, I tell you.
Thanks for having
Hey, Mark, we'll do lunch. So
Okay, that gets us to the consent agenda.
Mayor, make a motion to approve the consent agenda for August 2nd. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And to read old business by title only.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to read all under old business by title only. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, it gets us to item number 1, Common Council Ordinance number 21-15, annexation to be known as Nyberg annexation, 59.3239 acres. Senior planner Joanna.
Good evening. This annexation is an Nyberg annexation, about 49 acres. This was heard at the last August 2nd meeting. Public hearing was held and is ready for the board's consideration and action.
As Joanna has pointed out, we addressed the public hearings. The public hearing has been closed. Council members now have the opportunity to ask any questions of staff and or anyone else that wishes to ask questions of the public hearing.
I may have a question, but would I have to say privilege under the next item of business?
Yes, you will.
Okay, I'll wait, I'll be first.
You're referring to the rezoning, correct?
Yes.
Yes. You want to address the rezoning first?
Did you want to do them at the same time?
We can do it at the same time.
Okay, that's
We've had a public hearing on both.
Yeah, we've had public hearing on both. So the rezoning, as forwarded from Planning Commission, there were an A and B commitments that were made, and I can go through those as outlined if you would like. But otherwise, it's as presented at the public hearing.
Joanne, wasn't there 3 initially though? I might be wrong.
Well, there's A that has a number of subsections,
Oh, okay.
and then there's B. Yes.
I think it covers it.
I have a question, Mr. Kern. We had a lot of discussion last time regarding the, what you call it, buffer zone, or the buffer guard, buffer yard? Okay. Berm, that's the word I'm thinking of. I know according to the city guidelines, it's 5 feet. Is it my understanding that some team is willing to consider 10 feet berm, 10-foot average berm?
Yes, since last session, we spent a lot of time kind of looking at the situation. Yeah, we think we could go with the 10-foot and be within what the kind of was.
So perhaps maybe in the form of a commitment or?
Yes, we changed the commitments in the document to go to the 10-foot rather than, and I can't remember exactly what it is right now, but we can do that.
Well, then one other thing, and this isn't asking for a commitment, but maybe for consideration in the future, because I know at this point, and we understand that there's a lot of work to be done in terms of site development and plans and drawings and specs and everything. Should it be determined that there would be room for even a higher berm, this is no commitment on your part, but would somebody be willing to maybe have discussions with the city for maybe going higher than that if something could be worked out with city officials?
we will have a lot of conversations between now and then with the city, and that would be one that we would totally be willing to talk about.
I
Yes.
think it's our understanding that the higher it goes, the more space it takes, so it could impact how the site plan is up and so forth. So
Yes,
there's
sir.
some restrictions there that have to be kind of worked out. So that willingness to work with the city on both sides, with city officials and subject, I think is appreciated. And so we think we can work with a 10-foot berm perhaps and then keep the door open maybe for even more if it seems to work out.
Sounds good.
My notice reflect just as follows, that you also consider that if drainage is a potential of locating drainage facilities in that area, understanding a lot before, that was also a consideration, as I understood it, that possible drainage areas up there be used as well.
Yeah, potentially the lake, you know,
Be a part of the buffer system.
Yeah.
Of some kind. Yeah.
You know, the retention pond, I shouldn't say lake, but the retention pond. This question might be for Joanne. Joanne, what's the stipulation that the city has on the trees and the shrubbery that is going to be added to the berm? Is it a year that goes by that would the city go in, if there was dead trees or dead shrubbery, would it be replaced pretty quickly?
Anytime throughout the life of the project, should the minimum number of trees either die, get blown over, or whatever, it's a continuous requirement.
Okay.
But the
So,
city doesn't do it.
We don't,
Developers.
right?
Okay.
I mean, we do have that throughout the city where, something will be planted, it dies. We do try to catch some of those, especially when it's, a large number.
Sure.
But it's one of those things that, should a whole section of them, we would obviously notice that, or the neighbors would notice and they
Sure.
would inform us. And then we actually reach out to the property owner at that time, whomever that may be, and they will be required to replace them.
I knew that we had something, an ordinance in place for that, but I just wanted to bring it to the attention of the audience and everyone that that's a concern moving forward.
And the fact that it's part of the rezoning,
Yeah.
not only part of our zoning ordinance, it's even more enforceable.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Can I clarify one thing? The city ordinance is 3.5 foot on the berm, not 5, is that correct?
The city ordinance is a minimum of 5, but the number of plantings is less. So the commitment that was originally provided in the drafted ordinance and that planning commission has more plantings, which are actually better at screening than amount. Because you run into the higher you get your mounts, the harder it is to keep them watered correctly, which is when we end up with plants that die. That's why it's originally discussed with the 5-foot mound with more plantings.
So just to clarify for the council, we are 10 foot high with more plants.
The council will have to make a motion to amend the ordinance that is currently before you to include any of the changes that they would like to make to this particular ordinance. So if it is to change item A1 to 10 feet, they'll need to do that. If there's any additional language, they would need to make that official motion to amend this language.
The only thing that I've heard in the form of commitment is 5 to 10. Everything else, all of those other commitments is all 10%.
So the only thing that we need to amend is the 10 feet minimum. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Make it subject to all prior commitments and conditions as set forth in the staff report with modification that said 5 foot or 10. Correct. On the zone.
Yes, ma'am.
Anybody else? Okay. Bob, I think we're back to item number 1, Common Council Ordinance number 21-15, annexation, known as Hyberg annexation. 59.239 acres.
My understanding, we can do both ordinances at the same time.
We probably need a separate motion on the annexation, so we just want to hear both of them.
All right, good. Good, that one. I'll move for approval of Common Council Ordinance 21-15 annexation, known to be known as the Nyberg annexation.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and Ms. Rhodes, I'm going to ask for a roll call vote, please.
Question real quick.
Yes.
May I amend my motion by saying as amended, to accommodate the 10 foot?
Well, the
That's the
annexation
second one.
didn't have,
That's the zoning.
that's only on the rezone.
All right, that's good.
That's the one that's
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Austin,
Yes.
Mr. Blankenship,
Yes.
Mr. Hugo.
Yes.
Ms. Jones.
Yes.
Mr. Rainierson,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Motion passes. Okay, item number 2, Common Council Ordinance number 21-16, rezoning to be known as Nyberg rezoning, tabled from the previous meetings, and Joanne Myers. I think we've already discussed that, so if there isn't any other questions, we'd be ready for action.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve ordinance number 21-16, rezoning to be known as Nyberg rezoning, subject to the change from 5 to 10 foot.
That the zoning commitments be amended from 5 foot tall, and the amount, the maximum of 3.1 garage front to be 10 foot tall, and the amount, the maximum of 3.1.
I think that's what I said.
I thought that's exactly what you said.
Second. Second.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Again, Ms. Rhodes, roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Mr. Austin.
Aye.
Mr. Blankenship,
Aye.
Mr. Hugo.
Aye.
Ms. Jones. Aye. Mr. Rainierson,
Aye.
Mr. Taylor.
Aye.
Sir.
Thank you. Zoning passes. All right, next item, new business.
Thank you for being agreeable to make that change.
Thank you, Mr. Graham, we really appreciate it.
Thank you for working with us.
Will you redo this by title only?
We have a motion to.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to read new business by title only. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, we will go to first item, Common Council Ordinance, and this is introduction only. Common Council Ordinance number 21-17, annexation to be known as the Sterling annexation, 130.60 acres, and Common Council Resolution number 21-29, adopting a fiscal plan for annexation to be known as Sterling annexation, senior planner, Joanna.
Good evening. Before you is a request for approximately 130 acres to be annexed to the city of Franklin. It is located on the west side of Hurricane Road and immediately north of Heritage Subdivision. This request was heard at the June 15th Planning Commission meeting. The Planning Commission forwarded a favorable recommendation with a vote of 7-2 for this property to be annexed. And it is for introduction with public hearing set for September 7th. Due to Indiana code requirements, after public hearing, the adoption has to be no sooner than 14 days after the public hearing. Therefore, official action cannot take place any sooner than October 4th. The full presentation will be provided at the September 7th meeting.
Okay, so item number 1 is introduced, the fiscal plan.
That's part of that.
That's part of that. Okay, so
Yeah, it'll follow the same path what we just completed. So we'll make sure it's open to the public when everything will happen. The next meeting will be the one with public information.
thank you. Okay, item number 2, Common Council Ordinance number 21-18, rezoning to be known as Eric rezoning, senior planner, Joanna Tennell.
Good evening. This is the companion piece for the previous annexation request. The request is actually for two different zoning districts. The first one being for the north half to be RS2, which is residential suburban 2, and the southern half to be RS3, residential suburban 3. The petitioner did amend their petition before the planning commission. The first hearing of that was at the June meeting, in which it was automatically continued to the July meeting. Included in this ordinance before you is a favorable recommendation of 9-0. That is at the July 20th Planning Commission meeting for a favorable recommendation. If you look in the ordinance itself, at the rear section, there are Exhibit B, which are the commitments that go with the RS2, and Exhibit D are the commitments that coincide with the RS3. Currently in your packet is a copy of the June 15th Planning Commission minutes, as the July minutes were still getting drafted and will be before Planning Commission tomorrow evening. For the public hearing, I will go ahead and include those minutes in your packet also. That way you can have all the information that was provided at that particular meeting also. So this is set for public hearing September 7th. And as with all the other annexation and rezonings, at that time we will have that public hearing, and then we will request that the council table it for official action to coincide with the annexation.
Okay, thank you, Joanne. So item number 2, 21-18 has been introduced. Item number 3, common council ordinance number 21-19, annexation to be known as Yarnell Annexation, 35.932 acres, and common council resolution number 21-30, adopting fiscal plan of services for the annexation of certain territories. Senior planner Joanna Tennant.
Good evening. This request is for 36 acres, which are located on the south side of Earlywood Drive, just east of Graham Road, and immediately east of the residential units that currently reside there. This was heard at the July 20th Planning Commission meeting. The Planning Commission did forward a favorable recommendation by a 9-0 vote. Similarly to the last annexation, the schedule proposed would be a September 7th public hearing, including the fiscal plan, and then official action to be taken October 4th.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So it's introduced. Item 4, common council ordinance number 21-20, rezoning to be known as Yarnell rezoning. Senior planner Joanna Tennant.
This is the companion piece with the annexation. The request is to rezone the property from industrial business development to industrial light. This was also heard at the July 20th Planning Commission meeting. They did forward a favorable recommendation to the council by a 9-0 vote, and public hearing is set for September 7th. Similarly, we'll request that that then be tabled to coincide with the adoption of the annexation, October 4th.
Next one for introduction. Common council ordinance number 21-21, Gideon Drake's addition lots 8 and 15, alley vacation, introduction, senior planner Joanna Tennant.
Before you is a request for the alley vacation of a northeast-southwest directional alley that runs from Park Avenue to the alley intersecting it. It is north of 2nd Street, lots 8, lots 15, and 16. The reason for the request is the Johnson Memorial Health Athletic Annex is proposed to be constructed on these 3 lots. That alley currently has some public utilities that do run through it. The petitioner, through their contractors, have been in contact with all the utility companies for relocation. We have verification from them that they are looking at pricing and contracts for that relocation. The Board of Works did hear this at their last meeting, August 2nd, and did forward it with a favorable recommendation that the alley be vacated, pending the relocation of those utilities. And if you do look in your ordinance itself, there is language specific to that relocation, making it subject to it actually occurring prior to be recorded, and that the ordinance doesn't take effect until it is actually recorded. That way we can ensure that all the public utilities have been taken care of, and no individuals outside that receive service from it are negatively affected. So this has been set for a public hearing at your September 7th meeting.
Joanna,
And that's all I have.
good job.
We'll be here a little longer on September 7th.
Okay, item number 6, 2021 Economic Development Fees Grant Award to the Development Specialist Dana Moss.
Good evening. As you know, when a company receives an abatement from the city of Franklin, they have an option of paying an economic development fee if they so choose. The majority of them do choose. We're very grateful for that. It's generally 2% of the savings for that year for real property, or 5% of their savings for that year for personal property. For this year, that total in those fees came to $23,327.69. Last week, the Economic Development Commission met and reviewed 2 applications. We do send out requests to nonprofits who are working in an area of economic development within the city. We send out applications to those entities, inviting them to submit a proposal for those fees. This year we had 2 organizations that chose to present projects for us. One was the Franklin Chamber of Commerce, which chose to present the idea of creating a community calendar for the community, which is going to be really beneficial, very well needed. The other piece was for the Discover Downtown Franklin, who are going to be building bike racks down at the amphitheater that are done in sign language. So they will spell out, the bike rack will spell out this Franklin in sign language. There will also be a sign there that explains what that is and kind of talks about the American Sign Language and the inclusivity for our city. So the EDC chose to give a total of $14,827.69 to the Franklin Chamber for their project, and the remainder of $8,500 to Discover Downtown Franklin for their project for those. So I am here before you tonight to request your final approval on those 2 grant awards.
Maybe can you tell me how many, or how much money wasn't collected of folks that are supposed to pay that fee? Was anyone in the rear that didn't pay?
There's less than $1,000 that was not collected. They were really surprised. I called over and asked that question to the county, and they said actually, because so many times we'll receive a portion in the spring and a portion in the fall, this spring they collected all but $1,100 in that first round of collections in May. And actually like 600 of it was paid in June, so it's already been paid. There's a remainder of $400 that is going to be paid by November 10th. So basically this year, everything was paid up front.
Awesome. You got it.
Yeah, I agree.
Dave, your specific request is the council approval of the...
Approval of those 2 awards, yes.
Make a motion to approve both awards.
Second. Okay, then before we vote, I just want to go on record and say I am a board of directors for the Franklin Chamber of Commerce. I just want to make sure I don't need to abstain from this vote.
You don't,
Okay.
you don't have any financial interest in that process, but it's always good to acknowledge it. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Good work, Sean.
It was amazing. The two ladies did an incredible job with their grant process, and Jess Giles found that while she was looking for our project, and it'd be a really cool piece for the city. With Franklin across there, it was neat to see it.
Yeah.
The really nice touch in there.
Look forward to seeing it to fruition.
Okay, thank you. Next item, interim Zimmerman. Project reports Franklin Development Corporation, Trevor Mormon.
Hi, my name is Trevor Mormon. Since December, I've been working with Krista and Dana on various projects, just kind of showing the FDC's effect on the city. Through all the different projects and covering. So for the annual reports, previously there was only one for 2015 and 2017. We now have annual reports going from 2015 up until 2020, one for each year. And each of the reports just showcase a few of those key projects that really had a noticeable impact, both anything that was special that year, and then just like a broad overview on the number of projects and the financials.
Despite him being a Purdue student, he's done exceptional work for the department.
I would say instead of in spite of, because I am.
Okay. I like that, that's good. Don't let me get away with that, that's good. But he's done that to bring update all the reports, it's the burden off of data.
Yeah, I just want to showcase this. In addition, we have individual project summaries for each of the projects going back to 2015 that showcase how a before and after image and a brief project description as well as the funding that was provided.
And Trevor also did the report for the commissioners on the commissioners' properties that was handed over to the city. Good work, Trevor.
Thank you.
Trevor, will you take this back with you to your professors and show what you've done and make a presentation up there as well?
I may, yes. I hope to. We have, Purdue likes to include the students in improving the campus in Lafayette in general. So there's some similar projects like this that take sort of expertise on how to allocate funds and work on these sort of projects just to improve the community if you know that.
Any goodwill we can get from Sister City, that'd be great. Show it off, thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to thank Trevor, he's done a great job, a lot of data. We really weren't even sure how many projects the FDC had done, so it's 219 projects since 2009. So it's an astounding number, I feel like, and the goal is to have all of these will be on our website, the FDC website, and then also under each program, there will be a project summary for each project that's been completed, because I think sometimes the before and after, as I go back through some of the photos, you forget like really how bad it was.
Yeah.
And so it'll be nice to have all of that information, and again, the report that Trevor worked on, the data collection for the assessed values. So he has a lot of expertise in kind of the Excel spreadsheet and now assessed value research. So I just wanted to thank him, and it's been a pleasure working with him, and I feel like he's done a great job kind of helping us tell our story of the projects and the successes of the Development Corporation. So thank you.
Thank you, Crystal. Again, thank you, Trevor. Okay, that gets us to the introduction of the 2022 budget. I will say that I enjoyed my time meeting with the council one-on-one, and we went through, I believe, line item by line item, and just a summary of what the budget actually means. In the 100 series, which is for wages, that's where the biggest increase was in our budget. It's right at $532,945, which is a average 4.37% increase for the city wages. In the 200 series, which is the supplies, there was no change at all. In the 300 series, which is services, there was $119,204 change. And in the 400 series, which is capital, is a $15,000 change, for a total increase to our budget, $667,149, which is a 3.85% increase for 2022. And to where those increases come from was in the Again, the 100 series is in every budget. The salaries was the 532, 945. And then in the 300 series, in the Board of Works, the trash collections was taken up to $102,152 increase. There was a $15,000 we passed earlier in the year for the Arts Commission. Utilities at City Court was $3,000. The infrastructure at the Board of Works, $15,000. And then there was a deduction in the mayor's promotional budget of $1,000. So that's where all the increases is. That was pretty simple, I think. Excuse me. And going through with the items. I will say that talking with each council person, we do recognize that trash collections is going to be an issue down the road, and we're going to be putting out a RFP for trash collections to try to get the very best price that we can get. We're going to be looking to do that sometime into this year, the very first of next year to do that. Also talking with council, I know Sean, it's big for you and me, quite honestly, and I know Mr. Dukin talking about with our sports, softball, or baseball, soccer, stuff like that. I've thought about that a lot. I know that with Mayor McGinnis that was something that we all talked about, how to make that happen. But what I was thinking, maybe I'm putting it on the spot, but I'd like to somewhere down the road get with you and maybe Bob or anybody else that wants to be on checking out what is our best scenario to move forward. How can we accomplish that somewhere down the road? So
I've made a couple calls to Edinburgh and Columbus just to get an idea of what kind of revenues that they're generating, how big the space that they have, just to kind of get a better feel for it, to know what I'm talking about if we get to that point, what would we need. So, be happy to further get more and more, collect some more data to show you, because I know that, just a little park down in Edinburgh, it's full just about every weekend with softball, baseball, and I know that they said it's a moneymaker for the city, and plus it also brings a lot of people into the city and drives things in there, so good businesses as well.
okay, well, at some point in the near future, and I know Chip's not here, but I've already mentioned to Chip, I'd like to maybe have a meeting with you and Bob and Seth and talk to Chip, because we have looked into some stuff. That way we can all get on the same page of this is where we've been, this is where we're at, and where do we go from here. So we'll be getting with you pretty soon to talk about that. So, other than that, I mean, it's introduction only. If you guys have any questions, of course, feel free to ask me now. But I thought we had a pretty good discussion in our second budget meeting for this group. So.
Well, I appreciate, first and foremost, I'm looking at the police and fire salaries. And I think at some point, maybe we need to do a universal or unilateral look at our pay scale and our insurance package we have for our employees. Just look at the whole thing. And at some point, whenever that might be, whether it be next year or the following year, or whatever it needs to be, but I'd really like to dive into it and look at it a little deeper.
I think in those conversations we had, can't remember which councilman, but in fact, I think there was a couple that said that they pay $12,000 a year insurance. That's a benefit that we have that sometimes gets lost into what we offer as a package. I do feel good about getting our merit police officers and merit firemen up to a better wage. I think we tried to get to that $60,000 mark, and I think that's where we're at now. And hopefully that gets us more competitive and want to keep our officers here and look for a good attraction to other officers who want to come to Franklin.
Absolutely. hopefully we can continue to work on that.
So, anyway, it's introduced, and we have public hearing on September the 8th. That is a Wednesday, by the way, our next meeting.
September 7th. No,
But everything else is,
it's September 7th.
we'll probably still be here in September 8th.
Yeah.
Maybe that's okay.
Okay, well, we'll verify.
Okay.
It's the 7th.
So
Seventh on
Tuesday after,
Tuesday.
after Labor Day.
Yeah, that's when we're having public hearings on all the annexations and rezoning, so let's probably say.
Darn, I was hoping to be the 8th and all that was done.
We will be here on the 8th
Okay, all right.
as well.
Okay, so the adoption is September the 20th. So, anyway, if nothing there, I will go into Mr. Austin. Do you have any council comments?
I don't think so.
Mr. Blankenship?
No comments here.
Mr. Hughes?
No comments.
Mr. Jones?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Mr. Ryderson?
I've got nothing.
Mr. Taylor?
Nothing tonight, sir?
Ms. Brooks? Ms. Gray?
Nothing, sir.
I think we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.